Good morning. Hope you guys are having an amazing morning. Good morning, Savannah. Good morning, Joe. Good morning, Lisa. Good morning, Michael, and all of you guys. We have an unbelievable guest today. I am so excited to have a good friend of mine come on here. And I can't tell you how excited I am because Millionaire brand creation is all about creating and cultivating your own success story. And I think the best way that I've learned to help teach you guys to be more successful, to become, multimillionaires, to create a great brand, is to introduce you to people and to concepts that have made me successful. And this gentleman that I'm bringing on is the largest, from what I understand, in the state of New York for building car dealerships, right? So what's unique is here's a guy from Long Island. He started a company in 2001. He'll tell you more about the business, etc. But it's exciting because what he cultivated is a true family business. How many of you have started a business, maybe with your son or your daughter or a parent? And how many of you really want to create a family business that scales and that creates 7, 8, 9 figures, right? This gentleman is a truly unbelievable individual, kind heart. He mixes morality. He understands the truth behind employing people that are your friends. And we ready to bring him on?
He's just having a little issue. We'll be back on in a minute.
Okay, good. So the gentleman that we're going to bring on is the founder and CEO of Red Rock Industries. He founded the company, as I said, in 2001. His name is Dom Del Monaco, and he's a Long Island-based general contractor. And the thing that's really amazing when you think about it is how in 20 years do you create a 9-figure plus business, right? How do you cultivate all of these things that are really exciting in your life? We ready?
So.
Okay, awesome. Well, without further ado.
Now, how are you?
Oh, awesome. Well, I was just singing your praises. I don't know if you've ever watched this before, Dom, but what this show is about is it's about telling people stories. It's about cultivating great brand relationships and letting other people in on the secrets of what it truly takes to be successful in their own lives. I was telling them we met 2 years ago at 10X Growth Con, you and your son, Zach. And I just love your energy. I think you really extol great qualities when it comes to building a business with your family, with morality. And take us back into your business and take us back into your childhood. What was it growing up in Long Island that created a true entrepreneur?
Well, I truly have a lot of stories. And to start off with that, both my parents were Italian. My father, both parents were came off the boat, and they taught us how to work hard. And it started with, working around the house, doing chores around the house till I was 16, having a lot of family values. I'm the youngest of 6 children.
Oh, wow.
Three girls, 2 boys, and then myself. And, we did everything together as a family, which to me, that's how I was brought up, and it was great to start. From there, my parents taught us great work ethic. My father had a small commercial construction business. He did a lot of residential and some commercial. And, when we weren't at school, in order to keep us busy, my mother would send the boys to work with my father. And it started early, let me tell you. Probably at 8 years old. So.
You were 8 working illegally for your dad. Huh?
Oh, sure. Absolutely. And I remember, silly stories as, he was finishing cement and I would write my name at the end, after he finished it, smack my hand and, make me finish it. And that's how it all started. And as time went on, my father uh, made us really work at 13 years old. He let us drive the machines to start operating machines. At 16, he would pretty much make us full time. So,
Oh, wow.
on Saturdays, Sundays, we would work. And, the good thing about my parents, and especially what my father taught, was that, he let us be entrepreneurs. And to back up a few years back, when we were 5 years old, my brother Michael and I took my father's, we had a wagon, and we took stones from my father's yard, which is in the backyard, and we contracted with our neighbor, my parents' neighbor, to build a walkway from our driveway to their driveway. It was about only 20 feet, but it was like, I think we charged them $10. And my brother Michael and I, oh my God, we must have spent 2 weeks, and we shoveled out the grass, and we put sand, and we took my father's stones, and you know what? It was a real sense of accomplishment, the fact that we finished it. And I swear to you, because I bought my parents' house that they still live in. They passed since, but that pathway is still faint, but it's still there. So this had to be 43 years ago. So it was pretty intense. So everything, just the million stories like that, and all good, all good. Hard work ethic. I remember my father at, in high school. Perhaps we had a drink on Friday nights, and my father, his discipline was put me on an air jackhammer on Saturday morning for half the day until I couldn't feel my arms anymore. And I stopped drinking. I didn't drink with my friends, and because I'm like, sorry guys, I gotta go to work tomorrow. I gotta go to work. And with this entrepreneurship and work ethic, my father he didn't really pay us that much. We were paid way under what we were doing. But what he did allow was me to use the machines and be an entrepreneur. So what I would do in the wintertime in New York, I would actually go and contract snow plowing jobs. So I would go to all the houses at 7 a.m. and say, would you like your driveway clean? Would you like your driveway clean? I'd make an entire list of people that said yes, and I charge them a fair amount, $30, which was, I think, a little bit below the market. And what I would do is I'd say, I'll be back at 10 o'clock. I'll be back at 10:15, 10:20. And this was at 13 years old. And you know what? I made $1,700 at 13 years old in one day.
Wow.
Driving a little Bobcat. But I realized, what was funny is I realized they expected me to do the walkways too. And that would mean I'd have to get off a machine, and it would slow down my schedule. So I saw these two young kids, and I said, hey, how would you like to make $5 per walkway?
Nice.
So they would follow right behind me, and
your subs were born
$5
just like that.
You're right. And it was just great. So it was funny in that respect. And you know what? I always try to be an entrepreneur like that. I mean, we had a party. My parents, I never lied to my parents. I was told the truth. But my parents went out, and I was in 11th grade. And I said, Mom and Dad, I want to have some friends. This was before drinking and, before, it was very serious. And I said, Mom and Dad, I want to have a party. And my mom said, Ty, if you're going to have drinks, you better have food. So I catered a $350 to a pizza place locally. I had beer, and I hired my 18 Italian cousins to bounce the property to make sure that there was no fights or anything. Nice. Right? Turns out I didn't even charge everyone. I made like over $3,000.
Nice.
And it just was nice and clean. My parents came home at 11 o'clock going, what? And, I said, Mom, give me a half hour. I'll take care of it. And I got everyone out, and that was great.
So you were an entrepreneur at a young age. Did you end up, when you graduated from being a young kid and going into high school, did you go to college? Mm-hmm. What was the turn in your life that really said, I really want to become a businessman? I want to really go out and do this for real. You know what?
I saw the opportunity, and I saw the world as your oyster. So Yes, I did in fact go to, after I finished high school, I went to college. I went to New York Tech for architecture for 2 years, and I did 4 years business management. And on the second half of those 4 years, I wound up going to CW Post, and I wound up um, having a construction management courses as well. So, I crammed 4 years into um, a few degrees, as well as I wound up taking I crammed everything into 4 days.
Oh,
So
wow.
I would have 3 days to work. Yeah.
Mm.
And what that allowed me to do was to make the money, because I asked my parents, all my friends, the parents bought them vehicles and all this stuff. And I said, Mom, Dad, buy me a vehicle. They're like, no, you want a vehicle, buy your own vehicle. And I'm like, okay. And I said, now I got them. Hey, Mom, can you pay for my insurance? She's like, no, you want a car, you buy your own
Wow.
insurance. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my God.
Yeah.
So I'm
Yeah.
like, you know what? And I was mad at the time, but that teaches you,
Yeah.
So I bought my first car, and I was real proud of it because I paid for it. It was just a little Jeep pickup, and I loved it. And my father threw a wrench in the whole works. He goes to me, hey, you're 18, time to buy a house. I go, I'm 18. I don't want to buy a house. I'm 18. He goes, you're going to buy a house. I'm like, all right. So my two brothers and I, we bought a house. We bought a house in Woodbury, not too far from where we were. And, I was in college, and I said, okay, so if I take a room and my brothers take a room, we still can't make the mortgage. So I'm like, we had to basically find people to take the other rooms. So I rented out
Right.
3 other rooms. And next thing you know, we have a bachelor pad for 4 years out of my life because, I had to pay for the mortgage. It was
Yeah.
crazy.
Well, what my
So,
common theme I'm hearing, Dom, is basically from
yeah.
day one, you were always a scrapper, right? You always figured out a way
Hmm.
to make a dollar and create something out of nothing because you had to do it. No one was going to give it to you. What was the
That's
turn in
correct.
your life? So obviously you're making smart moves at a very young age. You're making and instilling great work ethic. Was there a big hit or a big transition into your life prior to Red Rock Industries? When did you actually start making money and becoming a true businessman?
There were two. There were
Okay.
two moments. I'm glad you asked that question. The first moment was I knew my wife since I was 8,
Oh, wow.
and yeah, and we'd hang out. Great girl. We're married 27 years. Love it. Um, and what happened was at 24, I was getting married, and I was making nowhere near an average salary. It was low, and I met with my father and his accountant. I said, Milton, I said, who's my father's accountant. I said, Milton, I need to make more money. I'm getting married at 24. And he goes, how much you want to make? I said, I want to make 80,000 a year.
That
He's
was
like,
big money
80, why
back
not?
then.
I said, yeah, I was just being, a little cocky jerk. And he goes, 80, why not 100? I go, sounds good. He goes, why not 150? I said, now we're talking, like a big shot. And he goes, then make it. And I'm like, what? He goes, don't ask your father to make the money for you. He goes, you want to make the money. Work hard, make the money, create the deals, and take over and help your father. And like
Mm.
a light bulb went off. I'm like almost I got permission, if you will, because I just didn't, I didn't realize it was that easy. So now I'm like, okay. And let me tell you, I got married. I worked 101 hours on the job. I didn't stop
Oh,
because I was
wow.
afraid to stop.
Mm.
101 hours. Literally, I was doing triple shifts, sleeping for 8 hours, another triple shift, and you know what? The first year we made the company, because it wasn't my company, it was still my father's
Right.
company. We made so much money that the accountant's like, what the heck happened? He goes, you guys got to buy cars. You got to start, spending some of this money. So we
Yeah.
bought cars and all that. And then, I continued that for 4 more years. And at 28 years old, again, still my father's company, we took it to a different level. It was me, my brother Michael, and then another brother came back into the business, and we decided, hey, we can do anything. Let's just, we were full of energy, and I said we could do anything. So we took on jobs. We built a college, we built the amphitheater, all big stuff, and we said, okay, what do? You work hard, you make money, and you pay your bills. That's it. But we didn't take into account for big business and big business through some of these big construction management firms. I didn't realize that, they're dishonest. And what happened was they told us, the electric, all the primes, the five primes, due to cost overruns, we can't afford to pay you. Take 10 cents on the dollar and take it to court.
Wow. Yeah.
And I'm like, now I'm 28. I have a new house with one child. And basically, they didn't want to pay. One company didn't want to pay us $2.5 million. The other one, and I didn't understand it at first because we had all the signatures to do the work and everything was on the up and up. But they threw a fast one at us, and I didn't know what to do. But the problem with that is they were paying every 2 weeks. And what happened is right before the Friday they were supposed to pay, they said, we're going to pay you Monday instead of Friday. So my brother called me in at Thursday night at like 9 o'clock. Sign this, because we need to do payroll. So I signed everything, not realizing. This is a big lesson, guys. I signed everything. Turns out, not knowing, because I didn't read, because I worked a 16-hour day. I signed my house away. I signed everything away. And then come Monday, the big company say, we're not going to pay you. Immediately, I had over $1 million worth of liens.
Oh, wow.
And how do you go and tell your wife, sweetie, I did something stupid. I signed our house away and I have $1 million of liens. And you know what? I'm always honest, good or bad or anything with my wife. And I told her, this is what happened. And it was like 4 or 5 weeks into it where, I had to go. I talked to some people. There's some great people out there that are entrepreneurs. And I said, John, I need your help. He goes, what do you need? I go, I need to pay people. I need to pay payroll. It was $450,000 for 1 week of payroll.
That's a big company.
It was $325,000 for payroll, and then additional. I needed $450 for the whole thing. And on a handshake, he gave it to me. And God bless him. There's people like that in life. And he said, pay me when you can. And I worked 7 years, night and day, to pay for it. But what happened at that time, I got my life lesson to, just don't ever get comfortable. Okay. Yeah. So I had to make a decision. I spoke to my mom. Next thing you know, she says, take care of your family and your children. And then when you get a chance, take care of us and whoever else you can take care of. And that's what I did. I started up a new company, Red Rock Industries. And I said, what do people need? That's the first question. I know how to work.
It's a good one. I hope everyone's listening. What do people need? This is how you create business.
What do people need? Right. And I said, well, listen, just looking out there, I know you don't see any old cars on the road. So I said, people are buying cars. There's always a need for parking. People are always dumping garbage. I really got into the nitty gritty and said, people are always dumping garbage. So guess what? I said I specialize in building car dealerships, parking garages, and recycling facilities.
Wow.
Which
I
put it out there. I said, I specialize in this, and I researched the hell out of it. And, and then the first thing I have to do is I got to understand what I'm doing. So now that I know how to work, but now I have to wear all the hats because I started a new company.
Right.
So, yeah, the first thing I did, my first $3,000, I hired 3 attorneys.
Oh, interesting.
I put them on retainer.
Yeah.
Each one $1,000. They said, "Why are you giving me $1,000?" I said, "Because if I have a stupid question, I need a straight answer. I don't need it from someone who's." And they thought I was crazy. And honestly, I didn't ever spend that $3,000 on stupid questions, but I knew it was there. And to me, that was my backing, that I knew that I got someone watching me.
Yep.
Okay. Next thing is, there are so many mentors out there that, like, people that are retired that done what you do. In my business, it would be construction.
Yes.
And they're retired and they want to get it out there. They want to show you what they've learned and all the secrets and all the pitfalls.
Right.
So I met this guy, Gary, and he was an engineer, just super, super brilliant. And I said, Gary, I need to build buildings. I need to build car dealerships. And he goes, Dominic, I'm going to not only teach you how to build the car dealerships, I'm going to teach you how to save money. So for 5 years, he would actually teach me. He was he built in his lifetime millions of square feet. And he said, listen, let's go to the steel mills, and we're going to buy the steel one step out of the mills, which he couldn't even do that. But with his connections, he introduced me. So I was getting steel. Then he said, okay, now you got to fabricate steel. You know, we're basically dissecting the
You're just taking
like
out the middleman and going direct to the
yeah.
source.
And he says, Dom, you can get a fabricator to come locally, or you can get a guy that, a company that is doing work for shipyards or for the military, you know, for the government that is doing millions and millions of tons of steel a year, but they might have a spot where they can fit your job in, where it normally would take one guy a couple of months. They'll crank it out in a week. So he taught me all these things. And you know what? He said, Dom, listen, everyone's got to eat. He goes, you know, so he made me understand that, listen, by me learning from him, I took care of him, monetarily by teaching me how to run a business and make money. And next thing you know, that after 5 years that ended, but the knowledge I gained, it was incredible. So
attorneys and mentors, you have any other steps for entrepreneurs listening in? Because a lot of people listening in are in the real estate business, and a lot of them are, solopreneurs, entrepreneurs looking to scale like you have. Besides putting great representation around you and creating great mentorships, is there something else that you could give them, a pearl of wisdom that you would say this was an important change in your career?
Well, I think by just not, I've always been one to, if I think it's a good idea and I have the money, I want to make it work. I usually I set goals all the time. And the goals could be, at one time they were cars, and now my goals are all about real estate because through you and Brian and Grant, now I understand the importance of real estate. And what's funny is it's like a secret. Like, most of my friends' parents are extremely wealthy through real estate. I mean, we're talking, they have 40, 50, 60 buildings, and the families live off that. But unfortunately, nobody wants to teach you how to do it. You guys are the first people that are, I met you a year ago, and you're actually teaching me. And so now I'm dumping the Lamborghinis. I'm dumping, all these things that really, it was prestige, but I did it all backwards. So the idea is make your money, save your money, compound, learn compound interest. I wish they teach this in schools, but you know what? You guys are the schools. So save your money and invest it in real estate. That is the key. And I'm only starting to do that at age 50, but already I'm seeing definitely great things happening. So I'm teaching my son. My son Zach's 20 years old, and he's already investing in real estate as well. And whether you're a realtor, get your license and join your firm, join your team, I think would be the best answer. I mean,
So how did you take, when you started Red Rock in 2001, obviously I'm in the construction business, but on the residential side with my father. So I think Zach and I probably have a lot of commonality, because I don't know if you've been through really tough times financially, but I remember in 2008, a lot of people know this about me, my dad actually filed one of the largest bankruptcies in Arizona state history.
Wow.
So, I mean, hundreds of millions of dollars. And I remember in 2009, we were at our knees, living this great lifestyle, and then overnight things shift. But I think it's during those times that your character is revealed, right? Was there a tough time in your business? Was there a time where you're like, this could really go down? And how did you pivot? How did you shift?
Well, I'm gonna first say, I kind of forced myself to have hard times all the time because I'm always doing something. So I never think that you know, I'm great. And the minute you do is the minute you fall because you let your guard down.
Right.
Excuse me. So yeah, it's a very scary thing when you pretty much have nothing. And I experienced that at 28 years old,
Mm.
and I said I will never let that happen to me again. So you always want reserves because honestly, right now the economy is pretty good. Listen, fuel is insane. If I can even tell you the equipment is $25,000 a week in diesel. You know, it just went crazy, and material prices are up and all that. You know, you got to just be honest with your customers, and you have to be honest. You know, the biggest thing with me is I always look to protect my customers more than they
Mm.
look to protect themselves. Because you know what? Number one, I'll always get repeat business. So it's super, super, super important to look out for their best interests. If you're trying to make a quick play, I've seen that happen countless times. And anyone who done that has done that in the past,
Regrets
where
it.
they are now, where yeah, they regret it, and where they are now is a life of shame and poverty.
Yeah.
So what I do is specifically look out for my customer. I look out for my customer and I look out for my employees. You need to treat your people great. You need to pay your people more than the average, okay? Because that's when you get loyal people. The same thing with the customers. Um, you know, I'll look at it as if it was for me, and I'll point out all the things that I personally feel that they should do. They could take it or not. Usually they take it and they appreciate what I say. And um, since that, I've only had repeat customers throughout my 20 years of career. So, you know what? Don't think for yourself, even if it's hard.
Yeah.
You know, and there's been really hard times where you said, I just need this sale, I just need this sale. And you know, if it was meant to be, it was meant to be. And with me personally, let me tell you one thing. There comes times where I'm fortunate enough. I just started three businesses in February through parallel integration with my existing construction company.
Yeah.
I started a concrete company, precast, and a roll off company. And you know what? It took a lot of funds from me to do that and depleted my personal funds. But then again, I know the bigger picture. So make sure you stay within what you know. Don't
Mm.
try to jump out into something that you have no clue about because you'll wind up hurting yourself and maybe your customer as well.
Well, I think
You
you
know.
you mentioned a really good point. So many people I think try to reinvent the wheel, right? They try to build a better mousetrap. And I think the best thing that I've learned in our 30-minute conversation and all the conversations we've had in the last 2 years is the concept of strong work ethic. The tortoise wins the race, and the fact that it's the consistency of day in action, right? Getting
Yeah.
up, going to work,
Right.
creating the reserve. It's all these simple steps, and stop trying to hit a home run and just keep hitting base hits over and over and over and over. And you not only win the game, but you almost win the World Series. I mean, do you feel that that's been the way in your life?
100%.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think it's super important to realize, listen, um, I have a positive outlook on life because I realize that, I'll constantly make lists and sheets and see where I am. And you know what? You're going to be disappointed. Okay, I'll tell you right now, no matter what you do, there's something that's going to fail. But if you have enough balls in the air and you're juggling enough jobs or whatever, you could usually get yourself out of any situation. Now, to me, my company and my employees, they're amazing. They kind of run themselves. My job is specifically to set up jobs, close out jobs, and meet customers. Um, and again, that's what I love doing. But you just gotta, because my people run everything, I take care of them. One person's getting married this morning and said, Dom, I could really use $5,000 right now because I want to get a bigger apartment. I'm getting married next week. And you know what? Most companies will say, hey, that's not my problem. But me, I have a policy. My company is called is Red Rock Industries. All the companies together is Team Red Rock. If you look at
Mm.
any of my equipment or anything. Everything says Team Red Rock on it. And the reason for that is we're a team. If we all rise together, we're a team. If we all fail together, we're a team. But it's super important to make sure that you know that or your employees know that anyone needs to talk to me. I'm approachable and I can help them out. I'm not, easy, but at the same time, if there's a specific, thing that someone needs, I need to be there for them. Just like when I need to have them work above and beyond or do something for me, they're there for me. So it's a relationship that, you have to have with your people.
So here's a question for you. This is a question I think resonates well with me because when I started my business, I asked my father a lot of, do's and don'ts and what should I do? How do I start my business? Let's say people are listening in, Joe, Savannah, Lisa, Henry. Let's say these people are listening in and so many more. And let's say you're their father, right? Pretend you were talking to us as Zach. How would you start your business from ground zero, knowing what you know now and knowing the size of business and knowing the multi-millions of dollars of deals that you've done? What would you do if you had to do it all over again? What would you advise your son to do?
Well, you see, the benefit now is you have the internet. Okay, yep. What I had to do when I started off was I asked so many questions to the point of being annoying. How much you charge for this? How much is this? What do you do if this happens? When this happens, what does this happen? Pretty much YouTube will tell you, or the internet will tell you pretty much anything, but it's super important to ask questions. People want to talk. People want to talk about themselves. Mm-hmm. You need to, you can start off by, look, you ask me a question and I go on a tangent for 5 minutes because I have something that I believe that people want to hear. And so you need to ask the questions. And obviously you want to ask questions from people who've done it before. And it's a simple thing. I've asked my father questions and he said, don't do this. I lost a lot of money. I asked my father-in-law, oh yeah, do this. I had great luck. And obviously it all goes back to real estate because now my father-in-law has a lot of real estate or whatever the case is. But the point is, he says, I started off small. I had a house. I rented upstairs. I bought bought the house, rented downstairs. I lived upstairs. Then I had the second. And then after 5-10 houses, which all, on a simple level, that's all what all my aunts and uncles used to do. And that's how they created real estate. So guys, you gotta think of what is the best opportunity. I see, even this morning on real estate, I've seen, a guy created an LLC and got 3 credit cards with $25,000 worth of credit, changed that into $50,000 worth of monies towards putting a down payment on. So there, you really just gotta ask the questions to people who have done it already. And for the most part, I don't think there's a secret. People will give you the honest answer, I think, because you know what? If you're not contributing and if you're not putting positive energy out and giving good answers, then you're really not contributing to society. And therefore, that's what I tell my son all the time. I said, listen, be positive, do the right thing, and be honest. And you'll have a great life. And already he's 20 years old and he has 3 businesses, and it's just asking questions.
Is he buying real estate?
Yeah, actually he will. And obviously he's going to be talking to you and Brian about that very, very soon, very soon. But it's super important to make sure that you hang around people who have done it before, people around success, because success breeds success. That's okay. So and I couldn't say anything more than that. When I met you guys a year and a couple months ago.
Yeah.
It just showed me like we aligned, our visions aligned, our values aligned, and we've been a lot closer because of it. And I created a whole new group of friends and business partners that I want to deal thanks to that, because not everyone's positive. You got to be positive. And you know what? a long time ago when I was in ninth grade, elementary school. Um, everyone's finding out where they fit in life, and I have to be honest, I went from an A plus average in eighth grade to ninth grade where I'm trying to fit in, and I realized, which I tell my kids this all the time, they think I'm crazy, but I wound up because I had that A average or A plus average, I had no friends. So
Mm.
this is so stupid, but I dumbed it down a little bit, if you will. And I got myself an 87 average. I made more friends, and you know what? And I just kind of held my head up high, and I walked around like I got the secret to Coca-Cola. I got the secret, and you know what? And so people would come up to me, and then more people start saying hi and hello and all this. And some people are like, you're so full of yourself. And really, honestly, I had nothing to be full of myself except for I had the confidence. And I psyched myself to have the confidence that it worked back then and it works now. So, you know what? If you walk in a room with a big smile and you're there to greet people and go out of your way to try and make conversation, whether it's about the weather, whether it's about positivity. Forget the negative stuff. And now I'm quoting other people. Yesterday ended at midnight. I don't care what you did in the past. It's what happens now. So find a mentor, find people who've done it, and just they want to share their story. Everyone has a story, and if you don't have a story, you need to get a story because
I can't tell you how
so
important
true.
that is, because if you can convey your story to others, you will be forgotten. And one of the things that when you were talking, it really resonated with me is so many people try to fit in that they fail to stand out. And if you're not standing
Yeah,
out and you're not being unique and you're not being the best version of yourself, how are you going to go out into this world and achieve what you want to achieve?
right. 100%. People people want to be around positive people.
They do.
In my business, it's a service business, and just like yours. And it's just important that, don't bring, I tell my employees all the time, do not bring your problems from home to work, and don't bring your problems from work to home. Keep them separate and address each one and get past it. If there's an issue you need help with, let me know and I'll help you. And again, I have no problem if anyone ever wants to email me, send me a DM or whatever. I will. It'd be my pleasure to help. And I get these calls all the time from my friends' college kids that just can't figure out what they want to do, and basically it all comes down to real estate, real estate, real estate. That's the best bet as far as I see. And I
Well,
only
I'll
wish
tell
I
you,
knew
I
this
mean,
earlier.
it's funny you say that, because I remember John D. Rockefeller said the most millionaires and most wealthiest people in life, even back in the 1800s, is because of land. And it's because
Yep.
of buildings. And it's because of creating something now that 10, 20, 30 years from now will cost so much more to build and so much more to own. There's forced appreciation. When people don't realize, I mean, think of what did your first house cost you when you bought it at 18 years old? Do you remember the amount?
Oh my God. I'm not sure of that one, but I will tell you the one at 24
Yeah.
was 100. You got to, oh, this is great. This is a good question. That's a very good question. Um, there was a house that's a foreclosure, and it went for $145,000. That's what the bank wanted it for. But there was five people that wanted the house, and they all offered that amount, but nobody could get the house. And
Mm.
I said to myself, why can't anyone get the house? I called the bank and I said, because you can't get a mortgage if you don't have a kitchen and a bathroom. Okay.
Oh.
So I said, interesting. So I asked the bank, I said, because then they think you're living somewhere else because you
Right.
don't have, a kitchen and a
Right.
bathroom, so you can't live there. So, we had very little means at the time of 24. So I said to the bank, um, how about if I put the kitchen and the bathroom in, and then
Give me the loan.
you know, get me the loan.
Yeah.
They said we can't do that. You'd have to. So I said, I'm trying to think out of the box. And this turns out I found out the four other people that wanted to buy the house had the same problem because they said, hey, listen, if you don't sell me the house, just pay me for what I pay for the bathroom and the kitchen. And the bank said, no, we don't do that. So I'm thinking, I'm like, all right, so there's 5 people that are all looking for this house. No one can get the house. So I just called up the bank and I said, surely you must have a subsidiary bank that can close the same time, and turns out there was a bank in California. So they had a subsidiary, and they wound up allowing me to buy the house. I don't even know how it really happened. They allowed me to buy the house at the same time as the closing because they, whatever the case is, I'm trying to even.
So
think
what's
of how
that
they
house
even did
worth
it.
now? The 145,000.
Oh, 680.
Yeah.
I think it was like something like that.
Well, we got a special
and
guest. Hold on. I want to introduce a special guest here. Let's see if you know this guy.
Hey.
Listen, you are awesome. How are you? What's going on?
What's going on, Dom?
You're joining us. That's great. That's I seen you. I seen your Insta where you fell off and broke your hip.
Oh
That
yeah,
was
my
yesterday's
little
Insta.
with the Weston, my son, our little video.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's
Well,
got me back on the bike. So, we were basically I haven't really ridden a moving bike, 12 something, since 2011. So whatever, 11 years. And
yeah.
my boys just kind of got new bikes for Christmas, and now they're all, Dad, let's go riding. And I'm like, all right. And I miss it. It's fun. I'm going to get a new bike.
Well, that's awesome. That's great, and I'm honored to be on this podcast right now. And we had great times, and we met through telling stories. Michael, we were talking about Mike and I were just talking about everyone has to have a story, and that's how you and I met. True.
That's right. You're a world-class storyteller, my friend.
Oh boy. That must be the Italian part of it.
Michael, this is his show. He knows this is one of his core tenets is, your story is your sales card, your sales, your business card, right? That's your calling card. And if you don't have a quick story, a good story to tell, and you got to be quick and succinct and, be a little unique and have something different to say. And so that's why this show is so powerful, is that he's always helping agents craft that their personal story, right?
I got a question for you, Brian. This is interesting because Dom answered this really great question. I said, if you're a real estate agent, because obviously we have a lot of entrepreneurs, in here, Henry, Mike, Lisa, Joe, and so many more. What would you tell your son? I was asking Zach, if you were to start your business all over again, what would you tell Zach? What would you do? How would you start it? What are some of the lessons that you've learned over 50 years?
They are starting their own companies. They are doing it already at their ages. Zach is already doing that stuff. Wes is already doing that stuff. Grant, Taylor, they want to do this stuff already at their young age. So Weston, I'll share a funny story. And by the way, Dom and Zach are like some of my favorite. I'm a sucker for a good father and son story. So you guys are one for the ages. And my father, I love my father. Probably same year I broke my hip, by the way. I lost my father. So, every moment was precious. He was my best friend. He was the coach and mentor for me for my whole life, sales, basketball, swimming, whatever it was, he was the guy. And, but, we share a lot of that in common, but, I think the funny story is, so my 10-year-old son is razzing my 13-year-old. So Grant, and he's his name says it all, right? Grande, he's a big dude. And Weston's, no slouch. He's tall, but, he's a little skinnier. But he's giving him the biz. And he's like, have any of your companies ever made any money? And how many have you started, Weston? And how many are failed? And I was like, well, time out. Like, bro, the fact that he's even tried starting companies, like, I got to give this guy credit. He's over here creating stuff, and I don't care if he's failing. He's going to be that much better by the time I go look at Glenn Sanford. I think he started 16 companies before EXP. They weren't all billion. None of them were billion-dollar companies, right? As a matter of fact, they were few dollar companies. Some of them are negative dollar companies, right?
Right.
And
Yeah.
and so it was a quick learning lesson for my 10-year-old and for my 13-year-old, but ultimately it was, the do something, make the attempt, fail forward. Better to try and fail than to not try at all, right? I mean, Michael Jordan, I have a poster in their room. It says, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah,
most of the people that I know that are extremely successful and have companies in the hundreds of millions of dollars have all failed. I'm fortunate that I failed at a young age. Oh, nice, very nice. Look at that.
Wait, I've failed over and over and over again in my life. That's why I succeed.
Yeah,
ain't that the truth for all of us?
It's just my little Jordan shrine, right? My success shrine.
It's always been. I've learned that it's always better to take the chance, especially when you're younger, and fail when you're younger. It's a lot harder as you get older. You got to make more decisions that affect your family.
Yeah, I mean, they got nothing
and
to
the
lose
hundreds
at
of
their
others.
age.
Yeah, your age. Just try. What can
go
happen,
for it? I mean, and that's why I love seeing Michael and my brother Matthew. I mean, they're young guys. They're in their early 30s. They're making it happen. I mean, that's the bottom line. My mom was a nurse, and then I got to hop, guys. I'm actually packing. We're getting ready to hop on a plane, head down to the Bahamas to go do some masterminding with the Cardones. But it was actually a birthday present. They gave me a really cool gift of we're going down to do a little masterminding. Dom, I wish you were. Are you coming down? Are you gonna be down there?
No, I just don't. I'm donating.
You didn't make this one. All right.
No, my wife has a birthday party. We have to go to. So
no, I feel
but
well, no, but it's
with you guys.
Can't pass that one up, right? So we're heading back down.
I'll do Cabo with you. That's awesome, man.
It's funny. As I'm packing, I'm like, we were all in Miami together. For those that don't know, we were down last week or so and for GrowthCon, and I was packing, and I think I wore shorts once in 5 days. And it was the last day when we went and did the beach drone shot, Matt. But that was it was all business suits, and I'm not bringing one belt to the Bahamas. I'm not bringing one pair of hard shoes. But yeah, I mean, you got to look at these young guys that are making it happen. My mom was a nurse for two billionaires, Leonard Lavin and W. Clement Stone, and both were chairman of the Napoleon Hill Foundation at one point or another. And Leonard wrote a book. And we have it somewhere around here, but he's basically wrote a book called Winners Make It Happen. And it's funny, a sidebar story. I think he said once at dinner, he said, I wanted to call it Losers Let It Happen, but my publisher wouldn't let me.
Yeah. Well,
so he went with Winners Make It Happen. But I think that'd be the advice, right? Go out, make it happen. Nobody else is going to do it for you.
Right. Right. And think about how many people it helps. When you make it, you give back generously. I mean, obviously, one of these trips, how much money have we donated to different foundations and to children? And it gives me great joy to do that. And so, you know what?
That's it. I mean, and all of these successful people like yourself that I'm surrounding myself with, and I could be so lucky to, I'm, having a one Dom in your life and consider yourself blessed. When you come to these 10X events, it's, rooms full of people like Dom and Michael Banovac, and, that's another trick. If you want to, those are some hard and traditional rules. Some hacks are just get around really successful people and copy them.
Yeah, 100%. And you have a responsibility to do that too.
Well, this is interesting.
Synergy of success, just like you said. Now we're all donating. We're creating other little companies and businesses and spin-off experiences for our friends, our families, and everybody's winning more exponentially because we're all kind of collaborating, working, pooling together. And how can you beat that?
I love it. I'm so excited.
Yeah, guys. All right. Well, hey, I gotta run. Literally playing.
Thanks for coming on.
Power, so.
Thank you.
Have fun.
Thank you.
Guys, jump on.
Bye. Take it easy.
So what do you think of that, Dom? He wanted to come on
Oh
and
my
say,
God, he's awesome. Are you kidding me? Listen, we're probably gonna go to Cabo together at the end of the month, but early next month, excuse me. I couldn't make the Bahamas. I'm very upset about that.
So we have about
But
3 or 4 minutes left, and I love a lot of what you talked about family, about these different things, right? Surround yourself with people that are going to hold you accountable, your attorneys, your mentors. It's really important to seek mentors that have done already what you've done, right? If they haven't accomplished what you've already want to accomplish, why are you with them? And it's funny you said about the real estate thing is I have a lot of agents that talk to me and they said, why would I partner with you, right? Why would I be with you? Your sales are okay, you're this, you're that. What did you do differently than everyone else? I said, well, for me, I became a millionaire at 27 from one thing. And it was converting earned income to passive income as quickly as possible at a young age. And what I preach to people and what I preach to agents, it's not about what people think you are. It's not about how successful people perceive you to be. It's what it is within yourself. And for me,
right.
What I realized is you can never outwork and out earn what it is you ever want to become. It's making smart choices like you did, and I didn't know this early on in your life, and investing in yourself, investing in your employees, investing in real estate that changes the trajectory of your life, not immediately, but 5, 10, 15
right.
years down the line. And if there's something you could say about that, like what do you think is that key defining factor? What is it that makes someone successful versus someone that is struggling? Because I know now, I was just having this conversation with Mike Hill yesterday, who was on the call. The world around us, whether we know it or not, is tightening. I mean, you see it, right? You see it in interest rates
100%.
popping up. Yeah. You see it in our businesses. Materials are skyrocketing. You see it in funds, right, with Ukraine and Russia and all this uncertainty. Yeah. You see it all around us. And when people see monetary tightening and a hawkish Fed, everyone kind of gets scared. What do you tell people as a long-term, investor of businesses? What do you tell people to say what comes next? What did you do?
Well, I have to start off by saying that, unfortunately, I didn't have the my education was obviously college, but it focused more around construction. And what I realized as my children were growing older, they had no clue as to just the simple things in life, such as balancing the checkbook. So I decided to do something a little different. At 16, I hired a paralegal, this woman, Marlene, just to teach my kids how to write a check, how to balance a checkbook, how to open up a bank account, how to get a credit card. And then from there, they go on weekly or monthly calls, depending on who we're talking about. my daughter less than my son, obviously. I love that. But I also taught them how to delegate authority. I said, she's here for you. Okay, she's here for you. So I need you to ask her the questions. What's on your mind? What are you trying to accomplish? And have a backboard, because sometimes it doesn't always come off the right way from a parent, because I'll dictate rather than explain, and a third person. So that's what happened. And Marlene's been there for them to teach them, again, taught them about compound interest, taught them about everything. And all I'm saying is that you just need to have the right person teach you. And if it's you, me, or anyone else, you have the internet as well. Just ask the questions; they'll be out there. I don't know if I answered your question correctly, but this is something I had to say.
No, I think it's so poignant because, for me, and I don't know if you felt this in your life too, where you almost go back to basics, and you never have money and you work so hard like you have, and I have earlier on in my 20s. You work so hard to make money, and then you get it, right? And you get the Lamborghini or you get the Aston Martin and you get all these things you thought were important. And then you realize they're not that important, but you don't realize that until only after you get it, right? You thought that would be the thing that would make me happy. That would be the thing that would give me purpose. And you almost go back to the basics. So what I'm hearing from you, the things that matter the
I'm in
most.
basics right now.
I'm
in
the same
basics,
way.
and I'm loving it.
Yeah,
I'm loving it more now
yeah.
than any other time.
It's
in my
about
life.
family.
I
It's
gotta be
about
honest.
your friends. It's about your employees. It's about doing the right thing. It's about helping people and teaching people like we're doing now. That's what gives you joy. You know, that's what gives you pleasure. It's not about, oh, I'm making more and more and more and more money. I mean, money is simply a tool to do more of those basics, you know.
Just like construction, it's a
Yeah.
vehicle. It's a vehicle to make money to invest in real estate. Hands down, that's the key. That's the play in my business, in my personal life, and in my family's life. It's all whatever you do, that's what it's.
So we're at the top of the hour. If you had a quote, right? If you had to encapsulate everything that we talked about, what would you say is what you took away from this and what you want to leave with the audience?
Surround yourself with people, like-minded people who are successful and have done it before, and just by accident you'll be successful. And if you push harder, you'll get whatever you want in life, and hopefully you'll be using it for the good rather than for negativity. Just give back. You have to give back, guys. You can't. I've learned the more I give, the more I get. So please don't think it's got to go. Get your once you get your passive income, try and do good with that money, okay? Because that's your legacy for the rest of your life, okay?
I love that. And now, how can they get a hold of you, Dom? If they want to follow you or they want to talk to you, what's the best way people can get a hold of you and talk to you if you don't mind?
My email is dom, D-O-M as in Mary, @redrockind.com, or you can go at Team Red Rock on Insta or Facebook, and you'll see Team Red Rock up there. And please just, I'll call you back. Just leave me a message or whatever. Okay.
Do you guys have any questions for Dom? I don't know if you have a couple more minutes, but I'm wondering if anyone has any questions in the comments section. Because this was, what I love most about this is, I'll tell you honestly, while we wait for these questions, you remind me a lot of my father. And I say that in the most positive and exciting way, because I can see why Zach is who he is because of that. Because, it's almost, my dad had a quote, and I was saying it this morning to the girl I'm seeing, and I thought it was so interesting. My dad had one takeaway. He says, son, I got to tell you one thing that you're not going to know until you have it all and you lose it all. He says, never, ever equate your self-worth to your net worth, because who you are as an individual has nothing to do with how much money you have in the bank. And I said, wow, it's a really good point.
Very true.
Yeah. And a lot of people that don't have money thinks, money will solve those problems. It just creates, as they said in 10X Growth Con, new levels create new devils. And almost the higher you rise, the more you want to go back to the basics and live simply and be with your family and be with the people you care about.
Right. And that's the stage I'm in my life right now where, I have everything I need. I'm blessed. And it's important to me that, I just do the right thing. 100%. And I take that extra minute to figure out what is the right thing and how can it impact people. Will it be a positive impact or a negative impact? And that's it. That's it with me.
Well, I hope everyone got as much out of this as I did. And thank you so much for taking the time, for being who you are, for being kind, for being interactive, and for sharing your life story with us. We really appreciate it. Thank you so much, Dom.
I'm truly honored for you and your team. Thank you. Matt, I see you back there somewhere. There he is. Well, Thank you, and I look forward to seeing you very soon. So.
All right. Take care, my friend. Have a good one. And thank you guys for tuning in. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Have a good one. Bye.